My husband's new wife knocked on my door, flashing a smug grin. "We're entitled to 50% of your dad's estate," she said. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Funny. My dad didn't have a son-in-law when he died." Her smile dropped instantly. She had no idea what secret I was about to reveal. I was just getting home from picking up groceries when I saw her standing on my front porch. Sabrina. I hadn't seen her in person before, but I knew exactly who she was. She had the kind of face you don't forget: sharp cheekbones, a flawless complexion, and that smug, self-satisfied smirk that made my stomach turn. She was tall and thin, wearing a beige trench coat over an expensive-looking dress, her blonde hair swept up in a neat bun. And she was standing at my door like she belonged there. I took a deep breath, gripping the grocery bags a little tighter as I walked up the front steps. "Can I help you?" I asked flatly, making no effort to hide my irritation. She turned toward me, her expression confident, almost amused. "Oh, good. You're home," she said, her voice smooth, practiced. "We need to talk." I let out a short laugh. "Do we?" She ignored my sarcasm and took a step closer, like she thought she had the upper hand. "It's about your father's estate." My fingers tightened around the plastic bags. My father had passed away 6 months ago, and his death had left a hole in my life that hadn't even begun to close. I wasn't ready to discuss it, especially not with her. Still, I kept my face neutral. "What about it?" She smiled, slow and deliberate. "Logan and I spoke to our lawyer. As his current spouse, we're entitled to half of any inheritance he would have received." She tilted her head, studying me. "Since your father passed after your divorce, that means—" I cut her off with a laugh. A real, honest-to-God laugh. Sabrina frowned, clearly thrown off. "What's so funny?" I stepped past her, setting my grocery bags down inside the doorway before turning back to face her. "You really think Logan is entitled to anything from my father's estate?" She straightened her shoulders. "Of course he is. Logan was your husband for over a decade. The law is very clear on spousal entitlements after divorce." "Oh, sweetheart." I gave her a slow, pitying smile. "You really don't know, do you?" Her confidence faltered. "Know what?" I folded my arms. "Logan and I were never legally married." Her lips parted slightly. "That's ridiculous. You were together for 15 years. You had a wedding." "Oh, we had a wedding," I agreed. "A beautiful one, too. Guests, a venue, flowers, vows. The whole fairy tale." I let my smile widen, enjoying the way her expression was starting to crumble. "But Logan, well, he was always bad with details. Like, for example, actually filing the marriage license." She went very still. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that, legally, our marriage never existed." I watched her closely, saw the exact moment the realization hit. "Which means that when my father passed, Logan was not my husband. He wasn't even my ex-husband. He was just some guy I used to live with." The color drained from her face. "And that also means," I continued, savoring every second, "that you are entitled to exactly nothing." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't know, did you?" She shook her head slightly, almost as if trying to convince herself that this wasn't real. "That's not possible," she muttered. "There's no way." "Oh, it's very possible." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. "Logan doesn't know either, by the way." Her eyes snapped back to mine. "What?" I shrugged. "I only found out after the divorce. It was a paperwork mix-up, apparently. A little clerical error that never got corrected. But by the time I discovered it, I didn't bother fixing it. Why would I? I was already done with him." She took a step back, shaking her head like she was trying to clear it. "You're lying." I tilted my head. "Go ahead and ask him." For the first time, Sabrina looked scared. I wondered how much of her life with Logan was built on financial security, on the assumption that she had married a man with a stable history, a legal ex-wife, and, now, a claim to an inheritance. And now, she was realizing that all of that was gone. "You should go," I said, my tone lighter now. "I've got groceries to put away." She didn't move. I reached for the door. "Take care, Sabrina." And then I shut it in her face. I leaned back against the door, letting out a long breath. For the first time in a long time, I felt good. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And later that night, when Logan's name popped up on my phone, I knew exactly what that meant. I didn't answer. Let him deal with his mess. I was finally free. I stared at my phone, watching Logan's name flash across the screen. My fingers hovered over the decline button, but at the last second, I let it ring. Let him stew. I could already picture his face, the frustration building as he realized I wasn't going to make this easy for him. He had always been the kind of man who expected women to clean up his messes, first me, and now Sabrina. I wasn't playing that game anymore. A minute later, my phone chimed with a text. "Logan, call me. Now." I smirked. Desperate already? I tossed my phone onto the couch and went about my evening like nothing had happened. I put away the groceries, made myself a cup of tea, and curled up on the couch, flipping through the channels mindlessly. But I wasn't really paying attention. I was waiting for the next move. And sure enough, it came the next morning. I was in the middle of making breakfast when the doorbell rang. The sound sent a ripple of satisfaction through me. Sabrina must have told him. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the door, taking my time. When I opened it, Logan was standing there, looking exactly like I remembered, tall, dark-haired, still wearing that damn leather jacket like he was in his 20s instead of pushing 45. But there was something new in his expression, something I hadn't seen before. Panic. Can I come in? He asked, his voice tight. I leaned against the doorframe. Why? You know why. I crossed my arms. Then you can say whatever you need to say right here. He clenched his jaw, exhaling sharply through his nose. Is it true? I lifted an eyebrow. Is what true? His hands curled into fists. Don't play games with me, Cat. Oh, now he was using my name like we were still close. Like we weren't two people who had burned every bridge between us. I tilted my head. I'm not the one who played games, Logan. You were the one who never bothered filing the marriage license. His face darkened. That was a mistake. A clerical error. 15 years, Logan. 15 years, and you never noticed? I let out a short laugh. That's not a clerical error. That's negligence. He ran a hand down his face, looking exhausted. This isn't funny, Cat. No, it's hilarious. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Look, I don't care about whatever petty revenge thing you're trying to pull here. This screws me over. And why should I care? Because if we were never legally married, that means I was never legally divorced. I blinked, then smirked. Oh, that's what's bothering you. His jaw tightened. You don't understand. This puts me in a bad position, Cat. I pretended to think. And yet, somehow, I don't give a crap. His eyes flashed. Damn it, Cat, I have a wife now. And this could ruin me. Why? Afraid Sabrina's gonna leave once she finds out she married a liar. He flinched. I let out a mocking gasp. Oh my God, she doesn't know yet. He didn't answer, which told me everything I needed to know. I laughed, shaking my head. Logan, you truly are a piece of work. His hands shot out, grabbing my arms. Not rough, but firm. Cat, please. I pulled away. Don't touch me. His expression wavered for a moment, like he was realizing how little control he had left over me. I need you to help me fix this, he said, his voice quieter now. I let out a slow breath. And why would I do that? He hesitated. Because we have history. I stared at him. Then, without a word, I shut the door in his face. I locked it for good measure. For a few minutes, I just stood there, listening, waiting to see if he'd knock, if he'd beg, if he'd try to force the conversation. But after a long silence, I heard him walk away. I exhaled, rolling my shoulders. I was an SDPID. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But for the first time in years, I was the one in control. And I planned to enjoy every second of it. I didn't hear from Logan for the rest of the day, but I knew better than to think he'd given up. That man never walked away from a problem. He just looked for someone else to solve it for him. And right now, that someone was me. Sure enough, my phone buzzed around 8 that evening. I was stretched out on the couch, finally unwinding with a glass of wine when his name popped up on my screen. I didn't even hesitate before hitting decline. 30 seconds later, another call. Declined. Then a text. Logan, pick up. Another text. Logan, this isn't funny. And another. Logan, Cat, we need to talk. I rolled my eyes and took another sip of wine. Me, we already did. Doors still locked. A minute passed. Then another. I could feel his frustration through the screen. Then finally, Logan, just meet me somewhere. Please. I smirked. Now we were getting somewhere. Me, why would I do that? Logan, because I don't want to do this over text. Me, sounds like a you problem. I set my phone down, fully prepared to ignore him, but after a few minutes, another text came through. Logan, it's not just about me. Sabrina's threatening to leave. That made me laugh. I knew she wasn't as confident as she pretended to be. She'd probably spent the entire day spiraling, realizing she'd married a man who wasn't even divorced from a marriage that never existed in the first place. I wasn't about to let him off the hook, but I was curious. I wanted to hear exactly how much of a mess he was in. I stared at the message for a moment, then finally typed back. Me, fine. 9 p.m. That diner on 5th. He responded immediately. Logan, I'll be there. The diner was nearly empty when I walked in. It was one of those old-school places with red booths and checkered floors, the kind of spot Logan and I used to go to when we were young and broke. I spotted him immediately. He was sitting in a corner booth, arms crossed, looking down at his phone. He looked tense. Good. I slid into the seat across from him. Didn't think you'd show up alone, I said, picking up a menu. Where's your wife? He set his phone down and rubbed his temples. At home, losing her mind. I smirked. Poor thing. Must be hard, realizing she hitched herself to a fraud. His eyes snapped to mine. I am not a fraud. I raised an eyebrow. A man who let his wife believe they were legally married for 15 years? Then let his new wife think he was legally divorced? Logan, if the shoe fits. His jaw tightened. It was a mistake. Yeah, you keep saying that. The waitress came by, a tired-looking woman in her 50s who barely glanced at either of us as she set down a coffee cup in front of Logan. You want anything, Han? She asked me. Just a water, thanks. She nodded and walked off. I leaned back in my seat. So tell me, how exactly did Sabrina take the news? Logan let out a sharp breath. She freaked out. Packed a bag, said she needed space. I barely convinced her to stay the night. Sounds like a you problem. His hands curled into fists on the table. Cat, I need you to fix this. I let out a laugh. I told you already, I'm not fixing crap. What exactly do you want me to do? File the paperwork. Make the marriage legal now. Then file for a real divorce. I blinked. Are you actually insane? He leaned forward. Cat, please. If we legalize it now, then divorce, it makes everything cleaner. No legal issues. No questions. I can protect my assets, my house. I barked out a laugh. Your house? Logan, you think I give a damn about protecting your money? His face twisted. I'm trying to make this easy. Easy? For you? I shook my head. Logan, I spent years cleaning up your messes. You think I'm going to do it again just because you're scared of what this means for you? His nostrils flared. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I like that this screws you over. I took a sip of my water, watching as he clenched his jaw. I like that for once. You have to deal with the consequences of your own actions. His eyes darkened. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I set my glass down. More than you know. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt thick, tense. I could tell he wanted to lash out, to blame me somehow, but he was holding himself back. Finally, he exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. If you won't do it for me, do it for our daughters. That made my stomach tighten. I should have seen it coming. Logan had never been above using our kids as leverage. It was one of the reasons I had fought so damn hard in the divorce, to make sure he had as little control over them as possible. But still, the way he said it made something in me go cold. I stared at him, my expression unreadable. What does this have to do with them? He hesitated. If this gets out, if people start questioning my past, it could affect everything. My business, my credibility. He leaned forward. And if I lose everything, I can't take care of them. I can't help with college or expenses or, stop. I snapped. He shut his mouth. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. You do not get to use them as an excuse. You do not get to guilt me into fixing this because you're afraid of what people will think. He swallowed hard. I'm just saying, I don't care what you're saying. I shook my head. You're a grown man, Logan. Figure it out. His face twisted, anger flashing behind his eyes. You really are enjoying this, he muttered. I took a slow sip of my water and smirked. He exhaled sharply, looking away. Fine, he muttered. If you want to make this ugly, we'll make it ugly. I tilted my head. That a threat? He stood up, pulling a few bills from his pocket and tossing them onto the table. It's a warning. I watched as he stalked out of the diner, shoving the door open hard enough to make it slam against the frame. I let out a slow breath, my pulse steady. I sat there for a while after Logan left, staring at the half-empty water glass in front of me. The waitress came by to collect the money he'd left on the table, barely glancing at me. You okay, hon? She asked, her voice low and uninterested. I gave her a tight smile. Yeah, just thinking. She nodded like she'd heard that answer 1,000 times before and walked away. I took one last sip of water, then grabbed my purse and headed out. Outside, the night air was crisp, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the diner. I pulled my jacket tighter around me and started toward my car. I wasn't 2 steps away from the door when I heard my name. Cat. I turned. Sabrina was standing at the corner of the parking lot, arms crossed, face set in a tense expression. She was wearing a tight-fitting blazer over dark jeans, her blonde hair still perfect despite the stress I knew she'd been under. I sighed. You've got to be kidding me. She took a step closer. We need to talk. I let out a dry laugh. Of course we do. She hesitated, like she was expecting me to blow her off. But when I didn't immediately walk away, she kept going. Did you meet with Logan? She asked. I gave her a pointed look. You know I did. Her lips pressed together. And what? She exhaled sharply. What did he say? What did he want? I tilted my head, studying her. You already know the answer to that, don't you? Her eyes flickered, but she didn't deny it. I let out a sigh, shifting my weight. He wanted me to fix it. Wanted me to sign a marriage license retroactively. Make everything legal so we could get divorced for real. Her expression tightened. And you said no, she murmured. I smirked. You really don't know me, do you? She was quiet for a moment. Then, to my surprise, she let out a short laugh. No, she admitted. But I'm starting to. I leaned against the hood of my car. So why are you here, Sabrina? She hesitated, her fingers twitching at her sides. Then, finally, she said, because I want to know the truth. I raised an eyebrow. About what? About him. Now that caught me off guard. She took another step forward, voice lower now. Logan told me this was just a STPID mistake, that it doesn't change anything. But I keep thinking, what else has he lied about? I studied her carefully. She looked different now, less put together, more uncertain. She wasn't just some smug, entitled wife standing on my doorstep demanding money anymore. She was a woman who was realizing, maybe for the first time, that she didn't know the man she married. And I knew exactly how that felt. I sighed, crossing my arms. You want the truth? She nodded. I looked her dead in the eye. Logan lies. About everything. He lies when he doesn't have to. He lies when telling the truth would be easier. And when he gets caught, he makes you feel like you're crazy for questioning it. I let the words settle. That's who you married. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. Did you love him? The question threw me off. I looked away, exhaling slowly. I thought I did. She hesitated. Then, quieter. Do you think he loved you? I considered that. Really considered it. Finally, I looked back at her. I think Logan loves himself. And I think he loves the version of us that existed in his head. But real love? The kind that means sacrifice, effort, honesty. I shook my head. No, I don't think he's capable of that. Sabrina closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them again, she looked tired. Thank you, she said softly. I raised an eyebrow. For what? For telling me the truth. I watched as she turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement. She didn't look back. And for the first time that night, I wondered if I wasn't the only one who had finally figured out how to leave Logan behind. 2 weeks passed. At first, I expected Logan to keep pushing. More texts, more calls, more threats. But after that night at the diner, he went quiet. No messages. No surprise visits. Nothing. Which meant one of two things. Either he was coming up with a new plan, or his world was already falling apart. I wasn't sure which one I was rooting for. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I normally ignore those, but something told me to answer. Hello. A pause. Then, a voice I wasn't expecting. Hi, is this Catherine? I sat up straighter. Speaking. Who's this? This is Jennifer Lyman. I'm an attorney representing Sabrina Carter. I blinked. Oh, the woman on the other end of the line cleared her throat. I understand that this is an unusual call, but my client asked me to reach out to you directly. She believes you may have information that could be relevant to her case. I smirked. Her case? There was a pause. Sabrina is filing for an annulment. I let out a low whistle. Damn, we were hoping you'd be willing to speak with us, Jennifer continued. About Logan's past, his financial dealings, any deceptive practices that might support the claim that their marriage was based on fraud. I leaned back on my couch, stretching my legs out. Well, Jennifer, you just made my day. Sabrina and I weren't friends. We weren't suddenly going to be grabbing brunch together, laughing about the man who had screwed us both over. But sitting across from her in Jennifer's office, I saw something I hadn't before. She wasn't the same woman who had shown up at my doorstep, smug and entitled. She was sharper now, smarter, and most importantly, she was done with Logan. I want out, she said, her voice calm but firm. Completely. No legal ties, no financial settlements. I want the marriage erased like it never happened. I smirked. That's a HLL of a turnaround. She met my gaze. You were right. About everything. I shrugged. I usually am. Jennifer smiled faintly. Catherine, if you're willing to provide an affidavit detailing your experience with Logan, it could be very helpful. Oh, I can do better than that, I said, pulling a folder from my bag. I slid it across the table. Sabrina hesitated before picking it up, flipping through the pages. Her eyebrows lifted. What is this? Bank records. Emails. Business filings. Logan's history of fraud. Her lips parted slightly. Where did you get this? I smiled. Logan wasn't just bad at filing marriage licenses. He was bad at covering his tracks. Jennifer scanned the documents, her professional mask slipping just enough to show her interest. This is substantial. Sabrina looked up at me. Why didn't you use this in the divorce? Because back then, I just wanted to be done with him, I admitted. I took what I needed and left the rest behind. And now, I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Now, I want to watch him lose. It didn't take long. Once Sabrina's lawyer filed for annulment on the grounds of fraud, armed with all the paperwork I'd handed over, Logan started spiraling. His business took a hit when rumors started spreading. Investors pulled out. Clients backed away. Then came the legal trouble. Turns out, Sabrina wasn't the only one looking into Logan's history. The IRS had a few questions about some creative accounting he'd done over the years. So did a couple of old business partners who suddenly realized they'd been played. Within a month, Logan had gone from a CCKY, self-assured man to a desperate one. He tried to call. I ignored him. He tried to text. I blocked him. And then, one day, I got a call from an actual known number, our daughter's school. Miss Thompson. I almost laughed. My fake married name. Yes. I just wanted to check in. Logan was supposed to handle tuition this semester, but we haven't received the payment yet. Of course. I sighed. I'll take care of it. Just send me the invoice. I hung up, shaking my head. I wasn't surprised, but that didn't make it less frustrating. Logan had always made big promises when it came to our daughters, but when it actually mattered, he vanished. So I paid it. And then, because I was feeling generous, I sent him one last text. Me, just a heads up. Your kid's tuition? Handled it. Since you're apparently too busy dealing with your legal mess to remember your own responsibilities. The message was marked as read almost instantly. Then, after a full 2 minutes, he responded, "Logan, I'll pay you back." I rolled my eyes. Me? No, you won't. I tossed my phone onto the table and exhaled. I didn't need an apology. Didn't need him to grovel. Because in the end, I'd won. I was free. And Logan? Well, Logan was finally paying the price for the life he'd built on lies.